What is going on, guys? It's your boy Ignis, and today we are going to be talking about the new Devil May Cry song by Victor Borba and Casey Edwards. That, of course, being Fire Inside from Devil May Cry Peak of Combat, the new mobile game you can get on iOS and Android. I'm not plugging them because I'm not sponsored. I've not played Peak of Combat, so I cannot speak to its quality, but I can speak to the quality of not only Fire Inside, but just the music done by Victor Borba and Casey Edwards in general. Both of them are incredibly talented. Vic is fantastic on vocals and has got easily one of the most powerful voices that I think I've heard in a very long time. Not just on YouTube, but just in general when it comes to game soundtracks and actual just regular singing. As for Casey, man has got a talent for writing thought-provoking lyrics, mixing amazing music, and just overall composing some of the greatest absolute bangers when it comes to just music in general. Obviously, as you would likely be aware if you've been following Devil May Cry or have looked at any of my content previously, you would know that Casey did Bury the Light and Devil Trigger for Devil May Cry 5 specifically, along with Empty Streets with Ali Edwards and Vacant Surrender with Victor Borba, with Victor having also joined him previously on Bury the Light. So these two have worked together before. I'm very familiar with their work and they're absolutely brilliant. Bit of a disclaimer as well, I'm not super well across a lot of terminology around music mixing, production, and anything of the sort. I'm very much new to a lot of this. I'm very much an amateur, as a lot of my other content, mostly my covers would indicate. I'm still learning a lot of this stuff, so please bear with me as I fumble my way through this shit today. Bit of background about Fire Inside. As you'll be able to tell just from what I said earlier, it was done up as a soundtrack piece for the new Devil May Cry mobile game, Peak of Combat. As I've mentioned as well, I've not played it. I don't really intend to either, because I'm trying to move away from mobile gaming for a lot of my other content, and just gaming in my own spare time anyway. So, don't expect my thoughts on Peak of Combat at all, but I will be talking a bit about Devil May Cry just as part of the video here, because we will actually have to talk about some of the plot with the lyrics. So, bit of a spoiler warning here for basically the entire franchise, including that shitty reboot nobody talks about. If any of the discussion or any of the information I bring up about Devil May Cry makes you curious about the franchise, there'll be a link down in the description to one of my favorite lore videos about the series, the complete unabridged timeline of Devil May Cry by Eruption Fang. Massive shout out to that man, he's absolutely fantastic and is a complete genius when it comes to compiling timelines for fictional universes. So if anything I say about Devil May Cry sparks your interest, be sure to check that out. And also, go play the games. They're fantastic. They've aged incredibly well. But enough talking about Devil May Cry and me just promoting random shit. Let's get into the actual song. Right there, Bury the Light's influence is already showing here. It's no secret that Casey and Victor were going to be borrowing a lot from Casey's previous work on Devil May Cry, so it's not surprising in the slightest that Bury the Light has influenced this even slightly. You get that nice sort of calm before the storm, that progressive build-up, that then just hits you with your guitar, your drums, and all that fun stuff. It's something I personally love about Bury the Light as a song, and is also part of why I am both proud I was able to make an acoustic version work, but also why I'm a little bit upset with my acoustic version, which you can find here on my channel, obviously. Go listen to that if you'd like. I'm quite proud of it, but I do know there is a lot of room for improvement. But yeah, so Bury the Light's influence is already showing right here, which I quite like. And this is also showing a bit more influence from Bury the Light as well. I might chuck a clip of it potentially in here, but if not, go listen to the original track and jump down to the Lurking in the Shadows Under Veil of Night bit, right after the second chorus. Essentially, it's a sort of distorted, garbled, spoken lyric from Vic, much like what's happening here. it's a very nice callback to that, and sort of helps keep that nice and thematic. It keeps a bit of a shared style across those songs. Obviously, with the drums, the guitar, the slight instrumental bit to build up, it's very clearly inspired a lot by Bury the Light and just how that song was structured and how it all plays out. Personally, mad props to Vic and Casey for deciding to stick very close to Bury the Light here, and splashing in obviously some of Dante to it to make it about both of the brothers instead of just about one. It's also loosely about Nero, which I'll touch on towards the end. But yeah, so very strong stance. And I'm jumping in again right here for this. Ebony and Ivory are Dante's pistols. I like how they integrate the names of them into the lyrics, but continuing on. And this right here is something I quite like as well. It's a nice jump up, not in a Bury the Light style, but is actually a little bit subhuman in that regard. So, if you've listened to any of the soundtrack for DMC5 or played DMC5, you know Dante's theme in the game is called Subhuman. It's by Cody Matthew Johnson. He's absolutely fantastic. Go check out the song. I'll link it down in the description for you to have a look at. And the way that it's done, it's very much your conventional screaming, like thrash metal type stuff. Not so much your, like, more, like tame sort of metal like what Casey usually does. But it's more a case of, like, your typical screams, your metal roars, all the cliche metal stuff. But that chunk there of the Dante verse very much, like, sort of reflects that rawness that Subhuman has to it. Which is something I quite like, something I really enjoy about the song. And now we have here a drop down to, like, a bit more of a chill, calm, introspective, sort of tone here. This is me calling back to Bury the Light, but this is very much similar to how Bury the Light handles things. The way that Bury the Light was structured was you had Virgil's like personality, thoughts, and mentality reflected in the, like, more calm, tame lines, like the whole immortal temptation takes over my mind, like that sort of vocal. You have your more tame, calmer, lower registers that are meant to make you think more, be a bit more introspective. I quite like they use that style here for the pre-chorus before doing a bit of build-up, which you'll hear in a bit, because it sort of lulls you into a false sense of security and sort of calms you before hitting you like a truck going into the next segment. Obviously, with how the lyrics are, they're very much reflecting Dante and Virgil's personalities. This entire first verse has been about Dante. But this segment here, just with some of the lyrics and all of that, just jumping back. Branches Entwine is a massive callback to DMC5. Like, there's a lot of, like, tree symbolism and imagery, with some of the lyrics throughout both the pre-chorus, the chorus, and even Virgil's verse, that essentially harkens back to the Clyfort tree from DMC5. Again, info about that down the lore video, link in the description. So it's a nice callback to that, but it's also like a sort of relation. It relates sort of to family trees, bloodlines, and lineage too. Where you've got, like, the typical representation of a family being the family tree. You've got, like, where a person is, then you go up, it branches out into the parents and the grandparents and so on and so forth, then sub-branches coming off for your extended family, your second and third cousins, your aunts and uncles, and that type of stuff. So the tree imagery, like, sort of linking the whole family side of stuff together, is actually quite good. There's also a little bit of a thing with Nero as well in DMC5, where, for most of his life, he was alone. All he knew was Kyrie and Crater, two very important people from his life, and he finds out all of a sudden he has a family with Virgil as his dad and Dante as his uncle. So, very nice use of symbolism there.
entwined through the dark so we can find ourselves in time.
And the find ourselves in time bit as well. It's a bit of a callback to how when Dante and Virgil went their separate ways as kids, they followed very different paths despite being very similar and having the potential to turn out the same way. Essentially, Virgil went down the path of power, lusting after pure strength and wanting to become unstoppable, whereas Dante cared more about killing demons by any means they can, and just living. Not letting other people get hurt because of his past. But ultimately they found themselves, and by the end of DMC 5, they're on much better terms and no longer trying to kill each other. Just jumping back a bit. And that's the nice build-up as well with the pre-chorus. So you've got your and then it hits into the chorus. I like that sort of build-up there, because it's effectively a calm before the storm, and that storm is approaching. I'll see myself out now after lazily, half-assedly quoting Bury the Light, but that's beside the point here. Essentially, it's very it's very well executed and well structured. At least this Dante part of the song is incredibly well done in my opinion. It's very much what I hoped to see for Dante's theme in 5, where instead of having Cody Matthew Johnson do Subhuman, I was actually more hoping that Casey would do a Dante track when I was getting up to Dante's section of the game. But after hitting the Dante section and hearing Subhuman, while it's fantastic and that rawness was reflected earlier, at the same time, it just makes me wonder what could have been, and this feels like what could have been there. But and there's a bit more tree symbolism and representation there. But I like as well how they've kept the punchy drums, and even the sort of punchy bass you'd feel too, that Bury the Light very much had. The song is very formulaic in terms of how it's structured here, just for Fire Inside, but it borrows a lot from Bury the Light, which in my opinion wasn't a very formulaic song in terms of structure. Of course, I'll eventually do a video breaking down Bury the Light, giving my thoughts on it and analysing it, so that'll be a topic for another day. But I feel like this is quite good for, essentially trying to blend the two brothers and their sides of, life, essentially, while also keeping that trademark style that made Casey and Vic so popular within the DMC fanbase. As good and memeable as Devil Trigger was at 5's launch and during all the pre-release, heading into the Virgil DLC, we got Bury the Light, which it put them onto the map, not just in terms of, nerd music, but in terms of just, meme culture as well. It remains to be seen if Fire Inside's going to have any meme potential to it. I personally don't think it does, but that's, again, not up for me to decide. But yeah, they've kept what made Bury the Light great, while starting to flesh out, some other elements and experiment with new things. I'll give some more detailed thoughts on my comparison to Bury the Light later on. After we finish our listen through.
We've lost control. Angels with bells to toll.
And that line there, Angels with bells to toll, calls back to the Angelos, which are a type of artificial demon and very common enemy in Devil May Cry. You can check out information about that in that lore video I mentioned. But it's also a little bit of a nod to the DMC reboot. The lore video doesn't mention the reboot at all because it's its own separate timeline and doesn't interplay with the core games. But in the reboot, instead of being half human, half demon, Dante and Virgil actually both half demon, half angel. With their mother being an angel and their father Sparta being a demon. So it's a nice little nod to that as well. It could even just me be overanalyzing here and finding meaning from the reboot when there's only meaning from the main series, but it's a cool little detail.
No, we can hide.
there is also proof as to why I love Victor Borba as much as I do. Man has got one of the most powerful sets of lungs I've seen on like any music YouTuber at all, and is able to hold a note incredibly loud for such a long time. I absolutely love the man's work. He's so talented, and that like just little snippet there is all you need to be able to see. Just like take that chorus on its own. That is just all you need to be able to sell someone on Vic. With Bury the Light as well, the main thing that got a lot of people I know sold on the song was Vic's performance on it with being able to hold louder notes. Particularly with the whole bury the light deep within, cast aside, there's no coming home section right towards the end, or in the case of the boss fight version from DMC5 on the Virgil campaign, right at the start in a cappella. But in case, continuing on. And now we have that drop down to a bit more of a chill, quieter tone to it. This is very similar again to Bury the Light. Bury the Light's got a very similar structure to this song as well. But of course Fire Inside expands out on it a bit more and adds in some more meat and potatoes here for us to get into. But also I just love the main riff for the song as well. It hits so heavily and so perfectly, and it just does all the right things to me. It's absolutely phenomenal. And that's also a little bit of Virgil there. Some facets of him that weren't expanded on in Bury the Light. Bury the Light's very much about like Virgil's, like deeper inner thoughts and, like who he is at his core. This is more the side of Virgil he openly presents, where he's wanting to become the Demon King, and he's wanting to become the most powerful force of nature in existence. Which is a very important plot point all throughout the franchise, and something I quite like. Especially when you get to see how it's executed throughout the series with Devil May Cry 3, Devil May Cry 1, what we hear about him in 4, as well as in what we see of him in 5. So yeah, so far so good with the Virgil section. And obviously, just like we did with the Dante section, it now picks up and starts to go into that more heavier, harder hitting section. I find this hilarious here. Never Veil My Name, even though for most of 5, Virgil doesn't go by Virgil. He goes by V for his human half and Urzen for his demon half, which I find quite funny. I don't even need to explain this. It's Bury the Light right there. I don't have to go into detail. And now we've had the Virgil side of stuff, we get again that same pre-chorus we had in the like calmer spoken, well, almost spoken style we see in Bury the Light. This time we've just sat on Virgil's side of stuff. We've seen his louder, more rage-filled side that he doesn't really present much, but now we're getting the more human side of him, which I quite like. A little bit of a reference here from DMC3 to Dante and Virgil's final attack against Arkham. So Arkham is the final boss in DMC3, and Dante and Virgil team up to fight him for that final boss fight. It's actually playable as co-op as well if you turn on a second controller, at least for the PS2 version. I'm not sure if they carried it over for HD Collection. They might have, don't quote me on that. But this is a nice little nod here just in terms of the visuals. I'm not really focusing on them too much, because it's not relevant too much to the song's lyrics. But this combined them with the actual theming of the chorus and the shared pre-chorus, kind of goes to show the similarities between Dante and Virgil. Something I quite like. It may be a little bit of over-analysis here, but essentially, this paired with this set of visuals is showing, while they are different, they can come together to form something greater. As we're about to see here with their ever-beloved jackpot scene.
We've lost control. Angels with bells to toll. No, we can hide the fire.
And now we're hitting into the post-chorus, which is very much inspired by Subhuman, just in terms of how it sounds, how it's structured, and how the vocals go. Because they're very much more screamed, which is amazing work from Vic. Man puts so much of his voice into this, and it's absolutely fantastic. He really shows off his talents here, and is just absolutely phenomenal the whole way through. But essentially, it's more just reinforcing on the similarities between Dante and Virgil here, instead of their differences. Their two dedicated verses focus on their differences in terms of what they seek, what their motivations are, and how they approach things. But this sort of focuses in on how they're similar now, which I like. Yet another tree bit there. Both, in this case, it'd be referencing, of course, the family tree, with how Dante and Virgil are effectively the last of their family, of course, until they discover Nero, but that's neither here nor there. But also, kind of a callback to how the Clive-Fort decays at the end of 5, which you'll be able to see if you play the game, or if you check out that little video. And that endless dismay, and this could be me digging a little bit, kind of reminds me a lot of one of Urizen's lines from DMC5, especially in the trailers as well. It has begun, I will show you your worst nightmares, I will give you despair and death. So that endless dismay kind of is a little bit evocative of that, and kind of reminds me as well of the whole demonic side of Dante and Virgil as well, because they've got that demon side they can't get rid of. Virgil tried to get rid of his human side, and as for Dante, he ignored his demon side for the longest time, despite it being something he could use as an asset, before eventually embracing it, which we see in DMC3. But that whole endless dismay line very much feels like it's meant to be looking a lot towards the demon half of them rather than the similarities in the human half. And also right here, the chorus goes down nice and calm for a change, and there's actually an important reason for that. Part of what I think, just in terms of a thematic standpoint, is this is showing Dante and Virgil reconciling at the end of the events of DMC5, which I don't know if Peak of Combat's adapting the storyline faithfully, because it's meant to sort of be like a reimagining of classic DMC. But essentially, what I interpret this as is the brothers reconciling their differences and coming together based on their similarities. They reunite beneath the tree, but, as you'll hear, time rekindles rivalry. And we also see here Trish. So this is the first time we really start to see other characters from DMC. Trish here is someone introduced in DMC1. She's an artificial demon created by Mundus, who's the big bad of DMC1, and also the demon who orchestrated the attack on Dante and Virgil's home as kids. And Trish was molded after their mother, Eva, as a bit of psychological warfare against Dante when Mundus was trying to capture and kill Dante so he could take over the human world without opposition. I feel as well Trish's inclusion here, along with the song starting to slow down, is very much reinforcing that whole reconciliation interpretation I've got for this last bit. But also starting to show the cracks in the brothers' facades. Because Dante openly says in DMC1, Trish may look like their mother, but she'll never have her fire, before Trish eventually gains a soul, essentially, by the end of the game, and does what the franchise says. She cries. A devil cries. But also, in 5, Virgil's human half, V, has essentially a bit of a, heart-to-heart with Trish, like he's talking to his own mother. He's, psychologically projecting, Eva onto Trish, and unloading all of his baggage, and explaining why he is the way he is, in hopes for forgiveness, and to, essentially be able to come back from where he is. Because V very much is, a very guilt-stricken person, as you see throughout the franchise, and he's very much riddled with trauma as well.
It's written in our blood.
And right here it picks up again when Lady shows up on the screen. Again, the visuals aren't really a massive part of the song for the majority of it, but I feel like right here towards the end they are, because Lady is where Dante and Virgil essentially met again for the first time in about a decade. In the events of DMC3, Lady and her father Arkham are very central to the plot, where Lady's trying to kill Arkham because Arkham killed Lady's mother, Kalina Ann, and Dante's trying to stop Virgil. Virgil's working with Arkham to open the demon world up. So this, I feel like, is meant to be a bit of a nod, just in terms of the visuals at least, to how they came across each other's paths again, which I found to be quite cool. Virgil doing his usual dimension-cutting portal opening judgment cut. I quite like this. It's one of my favorite visuals in the entire franchise, and we see him do it a lot in 5. And we see here V. The whole thing with V, I don't really get why they put V into this trailer, to be honest. While he's his own playable character separate to Virgil, mechanically, in terms of actual character value, he brings nothing to the table. I guess you could maybe make the reach that he's only in this section, just to say, yes, we're putting V in the game, and also to maybe slightly build that reconciliation and, relationship rebuild between Dante and Virgil. But that's neither here nor there as well. But yeah. And here we have Nero. So as I touched on earlier, this song can also very much be about Nero. Because part of the way that I interpret Nero's character, just from what I've seen playing through all the games, and comparing him to Dante and Virgil, is he's very much the best of both. He's got Virgil's drive for power, his, hunger for it, but it's for a moral and just reason, and it's because he wants to be able to protect those he loves. In Nero's backstory, he's an orphan. He grew up in an orphanage and was bullied quite a lot by most of the kids there, because no one knew who the hell his parents were. But he was taken in by one of the kindest couples he ever met, and lived alongside 2 people who would become very important people in his life, that being Kyrie, who goes on to become his love interest, and Kratos, who was a mentor figure to him for a lot of DMC4. And that's just the Virgil side of things, because he wants to protect them and keep them safe. The Dante side of stuff comes with Nero's struggle with his own demonic heritage, when his demon arm, the Devilbringer, awakens during the events directly preceding 4. Along with then, Nero coming to terms with his demonic heritage, and wanting to protect humanity from the demons. So I feel it's a nice balance there between the two of them, and you can very much interpret anything in Fire Inside to be about Nero, the deep family themes there, linking with how he is Virgil's son, and therefore also Dante's nephew. I don't like the way Nero looks in the game or in the trailer, personally. That's neither here nor there. This is specifically a Peak of Combat thing. His design in main series is phenomenal. But yeah, because he just looks uncanny here. He doesn't look all that nice. The graphical style just doesn't work. additionally, as well, like part of what lends me to believe this song can also focus a lot on Nero is the fact out of all of the non-Dante and Virgil characters, he gets the most focus here towards the end of the video. This is moving away sort of from the music side of things as well here. Just like touching on a little bit of lore stuff, but Nero is very much going to be the focus of the franchise going forward, I feel. So yeah. That's neither here nor there though. That's like a topic for a video or stream over on one of my gaming platforms. Links to them in the description. And we've got the song closing out with the main, like, iconic riff that you hear through most of the track. Very, very Bury the Light there. So, like, breaking down my comparison with Bury the Light a little bit, as to why I feel, Fire Inside's very formulaic compared to Bury the Light. Both of them have your slow build up to then a heavy, sort of quite a build up to your heavy guitar and drums. But Bury the Light does it slower and for a bit longer. So you're meant to really sit there on that calm before the storm. Whereas this, it's a short fuse before the explosion. Then obviously you've got your sort of processed spoken lines there. In the first part of each verse, that harkens back, of course, to the way that the bridge is said during the course of Bury the Light. Where Vic's singing about lurking in the shadows under veil of night, and how constellations of blood pirouette, dancing through the graves of those who stand at our feet, and all that fun stuff. So yeah, it's very much leaning on that, before then breaking into a slightly more heavier, subhuman feeling, part of the vocals, where it's a little bit louder, a bit more rage-filled and angry. Something I think's quite good and very much balances out the rest of the song quite well. But at the same time, it did feel a little odd to me. Just hearing that in a Victor Borba and Casey Edwards collaboration. I'm a lot more used to a gradual build-up with their stuff. Vacant Surrender has that gradual build-up, and so does Bury the Light. I will be doing a video on Bury the Light at some point, just help with communicating my entire thoughts here on that one. So having that to sort of sandwich between the start of the verse and then the pre-chorus felt a little bit weird to me, but it was still well executed and did flow quite nicely. Speaking of the pre-chorus, the Bury the Light verse style, where it's more softly and gently sung, very much works for it. It's a bit of a calm before the storm leading into the chorus, and very much what the song needed. It needed some points where it slows down, and because it is about Dante and Virgil, and to an extent as well Nero, to get you to actually think a little bit more deeply about the song, about the characters that it's focusing on, about the themes within it. Which I feel is quite important as well. If you're doing a song that's going to have a lot of symbolism, a lot of important information, and easy to find yet difficult to define themes in it. It's something that Casey Edwards has done fantastically between Devil Trigger, this, and Bury the Light. So mad props to him for being able to easily do those lyrics. At least seemingly. I don't know how his writing process is. I don't know the man. But based purely on what I've seen here, dude's able to do it almost effortlessly. It's phenomenal. Then obviously the chorus, it's very, very Bury the Light for me, which I quite like. It picks up and just hammers down at the perfect time there. You get your nice slow build up there with the pre-chorus before it then hits you like a truck, where everything's laid aside and it's written in the twins' blood. The chorus is done excellently. It's very well executed, but I feel like for the second chorus they could have done a little bit to change it up and make it feel a bit different. Maybe change the lyrics to be a little bit more Virgil-centric rather than a bit more general. Even change the first chorus a bit to be a little bit more Dante and have the second chorus be a bit more Virgil. Then keep the last one as we had it, where it's very much addressing both. I feel that would have been quite an interesting way to spice it up and add a bit more variety. rather than having the same exact pre-chorus and the exact same chorus going through the whole song. Then obviously going into that bridge section, it very clearly drew some inspiration from Subhuman. Absolutely fantastic execution on that part of it, in my opinion. It very much captures the inner anger and rage the brothers have, both towards each other, but also just in general across their circumstances. Dante obviously towards the demons, Virgil towards his human half for most of the franchise, because he believes that made him too weak to be able to save his mother, or more accurately, made his made his life difficult for him, because he wasn't actually able to be saved by his mother, because she was a human, humans are weak, and he believed the only way he could look after himself was with power. And that very rage-centric part there was fantastic. Then the drop down, the sort of calm before the storm leading into the final chorus was quite good. It hit at just the right time, but I feel like it could have been extended out a little bit longer. Maybe for the first half of the final chorus, they could have done it in that more Bury the Light verse style, where it's all laid aside, rather than being screamed, essentially. But regardless, mad props to how well it all flowed together with that last bit. In terms of the themes, though, while it did have a lot of nice deep symbolism, it wasn't as thought-provoking as Bury the Light or even Devil Trigger was. It felt more like just a basic character summary rather than a deep dive into the character's psychology and personality, which Devil Trigger, Bury the Light, and Crimson Cloud did a lot better. I've got my own gripes with Crimson Cloud, which I will talk about in another video. But in the case of Devil Trigger, you've got that focusing on Nero embracing the darkness that's within him, and no longer hiding his demonic powers in the shadows. But if that wickedness consumes him and he fully unleashes it, nothing can save what he's up against. There's no way out for it. Whereas then you've got Bury the Light, focusing on how Virgil is casting aside the light within himself, the humanity he has, in favor of demonic power and raw strength. With this, you don't really have that symbolism or deeper, more intricate material there to actually analyze, which I feel was a massive missed opportunity. Compared to the other main sort of the vocal themes we've gotten for Devil May Cry since DMC5, so that's everything from Devil Trigger onwards. I put this at a solid third place. So you've got your 5 tracks. You've got Devil Trigger, you've got Subhuman, Bury the Light, Crimson Cloud, and this is a nice middle of the road track for me. Obviously Bury the Light takes the top spot. That song does too much well for me. It does too well for me to actually be able to put it anywhere else. Devil Trigger comes in a very close second because it's phenomenal and does a lot incredibly well. This does a lot well, but at the same time, though, it's just missing something, which is obviously the deeper themes and the analysis material there that lets you really get a deep dive into the character's psychology. Crimson Cloud comes right after Fire Inside for me. It's good, it's mostly well executed, but it doesn't hit as well. That may potentially change when I do a bit more of a deep dive and examination on that. And I put Subhuman right at the end because while it's good, it's just not it. It doesn't feel like it fits with the rest of the tracks in DMC. So overall, quite like it. Massive props to Casey and Victor for doing an amazing job on this track as per usual. I'll link this video down in the description if you want to go give this a listen on your own time. And I'll also chuck links to both their YouTube channels down in my description as well if you want to go check them out and give them a subscribe. I really do recommend it because they're both incredibly talented individuals and have done easily some of my favorite music in all of gaming. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of the song, what you think of this format of video as well, because I do plan to do more song analysis type stuff going forward, whether it be new releases for artists I listen to, or deep dives into songs I quite like. And let me know as well what songs you want me to cover and actually play through for the channel this year. As you know, I mainly do covers on here, mostly guitar stuff, and I have been away for a little bit just due to being a bit too busy. But let me know what you guys want me to cover next. I've got some songs lined up I am planning to release over the next couple of months, but other than that, I need some new material. Be sure to drop a like and subscribe as well if you would like. It really helps out the channel, and I'd really appreciate it if you guys did tune in again for some other videos. And if you want to see some of my gaming content or support me in a more personal way, be sure to check me out over at Ignis Official, my gaming channel, and Ignis After Dark, my Twitch. Link down in the description for both of them, as well as check out my Patreon. Over there you can pledge some money if you want to support me in a more personal way. It's completely up to you if you want to pledge money over there. I don't particularly mind if you don't want to or if you're not able to. It's completely up to you. And other than that, thanks for watching, guys. It's been your boy Ignis, and I'll see y'all again next time with yet another video.